First of all, I would like to thank you, sir, for giving us the update regarding the budget. Plenty things that has been cleared out, and I think now most of us, we must have understood actually what the budget was about. But I would like to ask you a question. Like we have been reading in the news, through social media, through Facebook.
Can you put your mic closer so I can hear?
We have been reading it in the news, social media and other things. That's regarding the friendly Chinese government. They have been helping us to do a lot of projects in Fiji. So you'll be the right person to let us know if we are going to lose our ports and airports to the Chinese government. I'm just putting it to you, sir, because I know you'll be the right person to tell us about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. When governments borrow, there are two sources of, can you put on the debt page? There are two sources of funds. You can borrow domestically or you can borrow from offshore. We have a policy that we say that 70% plus or minus 5 should always be borrowed domestically and 30% should be borrowed from offshore, plus or minus 5. Because the idea is you don't want to have too much exposure to foreign creditors because you can get hit by foreign currency fluctuations. So if you borrow in US dollars, you have to always pay in US dollars. If the dollar goes up, then you have to fork out more money. Whereas when you borrow domestically, it's all Fijian dollars. Now that's one aspect of it. In our foreign debt portfolio, Shiri, you got that other part? We don't have that. Okay, in the foreign debt area, we've borrowed money from the World Bank, Asian Development Bank. We borrowed money from one of the agricultural funds. We borrowed money in the global bond market. And of course, we borrowed money from the Chinese Exim Bank. Exim Bank of China, sorry, I should say. Now, out of the total debt we have, of that $5.1 billion, only 10% is borrowed from the Chinese. Total debt exposure. The Garase government had borrowed some money for the Chinese for the ICT upgrade. And then we subsequently borrowed money. We have not borrowed from the Chinese since 2012, right, Shiri? Since 2012. I can tell you now what we borrowed money for. One was the Nambuwala Draketi Tahsiling, Buddha Bay Road Tahsiling, Savani Syria Tahsiling, Valley Road Singatoka Tahsiling, Moto Road in Moto, the bridge and the road there, the subdivision of Ia Housing Authority that's done up in Tahirua, and the building of the apartments of the Public Rental Board in Rewai, 7 that we borrowed for, and there's some debt from the Garase government for the ICT. That's the total debt exposure from them. It's only 10% of our total debts. Now, I understand that Rambuka made a claim that as a result of that, they'll take over Fiji, take our ports, jetties. See, that's a very stupid comment. I'll tell you why it's stupid. Because, you see, normally, if I go and borrow money to build a house, and I go to the bank, and I borrow money, and then the bank will say, okay, I want to have a claim over your house, a mortgage. That's what you call a mortgage. I'll take a mortgage over a house. I'll take a mortgage over a house in the event that you default on your loan, you don't pay. I will take your house, I'll sell the house, I'll get my money back. That's how a mortgage works. Same way if I get a car, you have what you call a bill of sale. Bill of sale over the car, they give me the money, I have a bill of sale over the car. Now that is going to change very soon in respect of how we do mortgages over cars. Anyway, that's another story. So if I don't do the repayment, then I take the car away and I sell it and I get my money back. The Chinese do not have a mortgage over any port, any jetty, any property, anything. Normally when the World Bank, ADB, Exim Bank of China, Exim Bank of India, they've lent money to FSC. When they lend money, they don't take a charge over any property. They take what they call a sovereign debt. That is a government debt. Now, sovereign debt is because an institution like ADB, World Bank, Exim Bank of China lends you money, they assume that as a government you will always do the repayment. So this is sovereign risk. That's what it's called. So it's completely false and stupid to say they'll take over our ports and jetties and all of that. I mean, if we're going to say that, there are so many Australians and New Zealanders who've built hotels in Fiji. Majority of them have been built by them. We're not saying because they're building money and putting money in Fiji, they're going to take over Fiji. How can the Chinese take over Fiji? So it's false to say that. Well, there. Oh, it's 10
Thank you,
o'clock.
sir. My only question is, you're doing a very hard job. My thing is, before you people give the incentives for water and FEA to people, they were paying the full bill, FEA, as you mentioned before. My question is the government monitoring those people or just only paying their bills?
No, we basically take, we look at the income level. So if a household earns $30,000 or less, then we pay 50% of the tariff for electricity and also for the water. We give free water.
Yeah, that's correct. But my question is, before you people were giving incentive paying their bills on their behalf, they were paying their bills.
Yes.
But where does all those, if my bill was $30 and you are paying now $15, where does the another $15 going? Is government monitoring that?
No, hopefully they're spending in the right place. But you see, the thing is, but one thing you don't realize, because they're saving that $15, they may be now spending that money by going and eating at Chicken Express.
So why people are crying is poverty, poverty, poverty.
Yeah, I mean, the reality though, there are some people who are in poverty. There are some people who are landless. There's some people, for example, leases have not been renewed. They've had to come to rural urban areas. There's some people, for example, they fall into poverty trap because the breadwinner has had a stroke, incapacity. Those things do happen. We cannot say that. But I mean, you are right. And this is why you see a lot of consumption taking place. Because of the fact that the income tax threshold is increased, and now, because they don't pay school fees, we pay 50% electricity cost, there's disposable income. I mean, I remember, because I sometimes walk around the streets and talk to small business houses, and this guy said to me, who runs Chicken Express, this was in Lautoka, he said, my chicken runs out by 3 o'clock. I don't know where these people are getting all their money from. See, because people have disposable income. So some people are smart. Some people may save the $15. Some people may go and buy a bottle of beer or carton of beer. Some people may buy Chicken Express. Some people may buy new clothes. But what it does, when you have money in the system, it churns the economy. When it churns the economy, if I go and say buy a carton of beer, I'm giving business to the shopkeeper I buy the carton of beer from, but I also pay VAT. That VAT comes to us, we use it to maybe upgrade some school or build roads. That's how the system works. In the same way, for example, we have equal distribution of land lease monies for members of Ethiopia landowners. A lot of the people are actually using that money to do things. Some of them are buying cars. Some of them may be getting some new Sulu chambers made. Somebody may be buying, painting their house. Whatever it is, whatever they spend the money in, it's actually churning the economy. So that's what you call it, creates economic activity, which is good for the economy.
Hello, my question is, it strikes me though I see the data that was presented. It says 1.3 billion was spent on Cyclone Winston. So from that 1.3 billion,
Where?
and from some of the information I gathered just recently, and it affected 30,369 houses, 495 schools, and 88 health clinics. And the medical facilities were damaged and destroyed. My question is, from that 1.3 billion, raising this question is, to me, how strong anyone is you can measure it how you are tested. Looking at that data there, 1.3 billion, and thinking about how well what do you learn from it? To me, when I personally analyze that, I know that the government failed badly on it. When you think about 1.3 billion, and 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 when we look at it, and we think about hundred of might be how many millions to the building facilities. I mean the hardware owners. But I wonder why people really affected. No, they were not completed. Even they are not given a complete house from that. From what I see, I think that is what I want to see. The government, how strong is the government? How well it responds to national disasters. That is the way I see it. So,
Sure.
Do you see any weaknesses from your party? On your government side?
Unfortunately, I don't know whether where you're getting figures for. Maybe somebody's giving it to you. I did not say that we spent $1.3 billion. You must have heard me wrong. I said the damage caused by Winston was worth $1.3 billion. That's what I said. I never said that. So the entire premise of your question is wrong.
218 million is from government.
Yeah.
218 million will be focused on recovery needs. That means around 200 million was spent on reconstruction needs.
Yes, it was. There were 225 schools damaged. There were health centers damaged. There were bridges, jetties, drainage systems all washed away. In fact, 218 is not even enough. So we actually have to spread that over a couple of budgets. You see, most of the schools in Fiji, for example, are not owned by government. You know, they're run by some community, some faith-based organizations, etc. They are the ones who built it. Now, many of these schools, when they actually got damaged, the school buildings, 95% or more of those buildings did not have architectural plans, did not have engineering plans built in there. So we've gone back to build it in a much stronger form. We have to. Otherwise, it's wasting taxpayers' money. You know, a lot of people, you know, some of the politicians, I think some of the Sodelpa ones, used to say, why is it taking you so long? We can very quickly go and put one nice sheet there, paint it, looks very nice, oh, do a grand opening, but next cyclone comes, with category 2, it'll blow it away. So we have to actually build back better, and it costs a lot of money. Because you see, when you build something, then you must build to such a standard it can withstand certain pressures of climatic events. So $200 million actually is nothing. And in fact, if you listen to the Australians, if you look at the Europeans, they've all actually given accolades to the Fijian government to say that what we have done and the measure we took was actually commendable, the manner in which we handled it. Let me also tell you the other thing. The manner and the amount of money that we have spent in giving direct assistance to Fijian families, help for homes, home care that we've done, never been done before. Never. You can go and check all the historical accounts. Never before in Fiji's history has a government given, for example, a ATM card or equivalent or my M-Pesa card to a household and say, here's $3,000, you go and rebuild your house. Here's $7,000, you go and rebuild your house. Here's $1,500, you go and rebuild your house, or whatever it is. Never been done before. And also, of course, before there was a lot of discrimination too. In fact, when homes used to be built before, Indo-Fijian homes never got built. It's a fact. There was a policy in place. It never got built. Also, certain provinces got dislocated too, or did not get level of assistance. So now the policy is very transparent. If you have been affected by it, you have a certain income criteria threshold you have to meet, then you will get the assistance. Of course, the scale of the damage caused by Winston was phenomenal, as we know. We've never had category 5 in Fiji. In fact, it was the second strongest storm recorded in the world after Cyclone Haiyan in Philippines. The strongest storm in the southern hemisphere. Damage was phenomenal. And as we all know, there was a shortage of, building material, etc. So yes, some people may not have got it in time. But the reality is majority of the people actually got the assistance. The majority of people have benefited from it. But we're also not looking at schools, only individual homes. We're also looking at government stations, teachers' quarters, health centers. All of those things were damaged. So we've been rebuilding. So unfortunately, the $1.3 billion, I did not say we spent $1.3 billion. The damage caused was worth $1.3 billion. We had, for example, inner places in Ra, where crossings got washed away. You know, Irish crossings, all of that because of the flood and the debris, etc. A lot of jetties got washed away. So that's the rebuild effort in that respect. Okay, next. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if there are no other, we got 1, 2. Maybe, can we take the last 2, please?
You spoke on the $2.68 minimum wage, and you gave a really privileged answer. And from your preaching aligns with your action. You went on talking about all these supermarkets. Let's see your portfolio. How many portfolio do you hold? And how many graduates are out there? So are you saying there are still unskilled people? You said they're getting $2.68 because they are unskilled. How many portfolio are you holding? Is there no one else more valid to hold those portfolio? Are you calling them unskilled people?
Okay, I think there may be a bit of a cross-thinking here. In order to become a minister, you have to be a member of parliament. So if you are a graduate and you're unemployed, you can't become a minister. So I'm not taking anybody else's job. So that's number one. So that's incorrect to say that. Logically, it does not make sense. Because a person who's a graduate, who's unemployed, cannot become a minister. You have to be a member of parliament. I'm a member of parliament. So if those people want to become a minister, they can of course join a political party and try and get into parliament and try and win government and become a minister. That's the way the system works. It's not a privileged answer. And there is no nexus between the portfolios I hold and $2.68 an hour. $2.68 an hour, again, let me re-emphasize, is the hourly rate minimum wage for unskilled people. As I've said, that the minimum wage for people in other professions is much higher than $2.68. So there are, for example, electricians that may have a higher rate, $7 to $8 an hour, whatever the case may be. Waiters, waitresses have a higher rate of income or a salary rate. Now, also the other thing that you have to note is that the market also dictates. So, for example, in Suva, because there's a shortage of welders, you know, people who work on construction site do welding, there are welders getting paid $15, $16 an hour. So I think, you know, you need to be able to understand the job market, you need to look at those sectors and how the sectorial wages work. The $2.68 an hour is for people who don't have a specific training in any specific area. So, for example, a person who's a waiter or a waitress, they have training that in a specific area. And therefore, their wage rate is much higher than somebody who's getting $2.68. Even security guards have a much higher wage rate than the minimum wage. Okay? Somebody else? Please. Can I have a mic here, please?
I was at home this afternoon. Saw you online. So I count myself privileged because I came towards the end of the presentation. I, for one, would want to, on behalf of you other honorable members are here, like to acknowledge their presence also. I, for one, I'd see myself as the least number 8 okay here. So I would like to be reassured or be told tonight, because if I tell you straight in the eyes, there's talks, grog sessions, you've been gossip, you've been talked about. There's the understanding that there's a two-man government. There's a lot of powers under Head 50 that you control from other portfolios. I would like to be assured tonight. There's a lot of whole other things. For me, I wouldn't want to be seen tonight. You have that observation, or that initial observation that this budget is a very small budget. But my question would be posed like this. The process that have been undertaken. If those understanding or all those talks that have been around grog bowls People couldn't say it out loud in front of you. The question would I pose, all those processes go through. Okay, why is it you have a lot of control on the head 50 as Minister of the Economy? Sorry, sir, you being the Minister of the Economy, you control all of that. The second question would be, are the ministers not competent enough to undertake all those portfolios? That's all question.
Sure, thank you. No, thanks for asking the question, and I think, hopefully the lady behind you also calms down a bit, and I can explain it to her too. You see, if you see this book here, now, the people who actually sign off in the ministries for the budget, like, so for example, we have Ministry of Disaster Management and Meteorological Service. Right, so there's here, it says here, sorry I can't read this, upgrade of outer island stations, $460,000. So if there's an upgrade being carried out by this ministry, the minister does not sign off. The person who signs the RIE or person who signs the expense to be paid is the permanent secretary. The permanent secretary is the person responsible for the management of all the funds in all the ministries. The minister never signs. It's the permanent secretary that gives the authorization. Pay company XYZ. Pay them $50,000 for this outer island station. Now, there are certain expenses that you see is got an R. Right? Now, R means that the fund is centrally controlled by the Ministry of Economy. Now, this is R. It's a large project. It's for a weather observation system at Nandi Airport. It's a large capital project. So it will require consultants. It will require people to, from Ministry of Economy, we have what we call a construction implementation unit. They oversee whether the right contractor has been appointed. They go through the Fiji, the procurement office, you call a tender. So they have to make sure it's all the processes are followed. Now, this permanent secretary, Makreta Conrote, is the one who also, when the R comes to her, assuming like, this thing costs $1 million, it says, to build this weather observation system. Now, when they, for example, are going to build this, they don't, of course, pay the contractor all $1 million at once. So, when it say have to do a payment of $250,000, it never comes to me. It only goes to her. It only goes to her because she has the authorization to approve anything that's $1 million or less. Anytime a payment is made, $1 million or less, she approves it. I don't even get to see it. So even though it's under R, it does not mean I control it. So you see, it's a very misplaced concept. Obviously, as Minister for Economy, if there are large expenses, if there is an R, the permanent secretary will say, Minister, recommended for approval. I don't go and make my own clarification. I basically look at the documentation. I look at whether she thinks she's giving the right documentation, and we approve it. There's nothing wrong with that. Because all ministers for finance have done it since the Ratu Mara government days. You see, getting back to your point. Let me finish. I'm trying to explain. In the
but it's missing my answer.
Yeah.
The question is, it's still under that header as Minister of Economy.
Yes.
Being that, isn't that the relevant portfolio scope to come under your Minister of Economy? You just need to tell me, is it under your header 50, under all those portfolios, even if it's under R or below R, under 1 million?
I don't even understand what you're saying. Can you explain yourself? Maybe somebody's asked you to ask me the question, you don't understand yourself. Just explain to me what you want to know, I'll tell you.
Yeah, the first question,
yes.
You're going all around, sir.
No, I'm not. You're doing. Tell me.
All around, sir, about the R, okay, the permanent secretary.
Yes.
Size of 1 million or less, eh?
Yes.
Yes. Other than that, it comes to the line minister.
Line minister for?
Say for responsible for climate change, which is you, sir.
Climate change.
Yes, responsible for climate
Yes.
Okay. If it's more than 1 million, then it's okay by you and not by the permanent secretary.
No, she has to okay it. I can't okay it on my own. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. You see, no minister can authorize that. It has to be authorized by the permanent secretary, because if you look at the Financial Regulations Act that governs financial regulations of government, the permanent secretary has to approve it. A minister cannot decide one day, okay, I'm going to do this, I've got R or I've got 850, I'll do it. This is the whole problem. People don't understand what's happening. The laws are very clear if people only bother to read the regulations. You see, I think the reason what it is, and let me be frank with you, you being frank with me, I think it's a racist thing, frankly. Right? I think it's a racist thing. Because they see me as a Kendia, therefore that's the problem. I know. That's what I'm telling you. So read the regulations, because the regulations will tell you that she has to authorize it first. Right? See?
When I read that, my first...
no, you see...
Under head 50, all those...
See, head 50, okay, R is not in head 50. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. See, R will be in different ministries, right? So, for example, we are, what's the major project we're doing? YLSC, okay? We're giving money to YLSC, or we're giving, say, building a Bau College, right? Bau College, we're building Bau College, okay? Right? No, we're building a college called Bau College. Now, we have a construction implementation unit. Now, they actually go out, get the consultants, etc. If there's a payment that needs to be made, the person is in charge of it, he gives his authorization, he's been through all the contractors, he then recommends it to the permanent secretary. If that repayment is going to be $1 million or less, even if it may be a $50 million project, I don't get to see it. The permanent secretary deals with it. The file never reaches my desk.
That's my question.
Yes.
Just clarify that. It's under authority?
Yes.
Even if it's under head 50?
Okay. No, wait. That's R. Head 50 is different. Head 50 is what you call the head 50 expenses. So, for example, we are in head 50. So, civil service salary adjustments, right? Now, as Minister for Economy, this is my area of purview. The area of purview for the other ministries is not my area of purview, unless it's something over $1 million. Obviously, the Minister for Finance, as it used to be before, all ministers of finance have done this. It's not something peculiar to me, right? So, head 50 over here, for example, we have, oh no, this is peacekeeping. Let me pull out head 50. So over here, head 50. It says, pensions, civil and compassionate. Ex-parliamentarian's pension, ex-governor general, president, ex-PM's pension. That's where the money is. I don't even get to see it. The payment has to be made, it simply goes from head 50. So that's...
You answered my question.
Yeah, so that's how the system works. Yeah?
The other part of the question.
Yes.
I'm just saying it to you honestly.
No, please, I want you to. It's good.
Yeah. Why is this man,
Yeah.
to you, sir?
Yeah,
Why
yeah.
is this man getting to have all these answers for everybody other than the line minister portfolio?
Which answers?
No, I mean, no, all the portfolios.
What portfolios?
You seem to be answering all those things. I need to...
Yeah, sure. No, but when there are questions that are directed to the line minister, he answers it. We have questions for Minister Bala, Minister Vuniwanga, Minister Seriratu. They answer the questions. If the opposition members want to keep on asking economic questions, want to keep on asking legal questions, obviously I'll be the minister, I have to answer it. But if they have asked questions, for example, one says about Minister Bala, this road, this water, why isn't it done? He answers the questions. Squatter development, he answers the questions. I mean, agriculture, Inia Seriratu, Honorable Minister Seriratu answers the questions.
Okay.
So if the opposition want to keep on asking me questions, I have to answer it, right?
I mean, you have to be...
Sorry?
I mean, you said if we keep answering you...
Keep on asking me questions, I have to answer.
You'll have to answer.
I have to answer.
What I'm saying is ask questions for other ministers which you've been answering.
No, I haven't been doing that. When the minister is there, I have to answer it. When they answer it, when the ministers are not there, depending on who's acting at that point in time.
It's you again.
No, if I'm acting. Sometimes, for example, when Minister Rosie Akbar leaves the country, Minister Vuniwanga is acting for her. Sometimes when Minister Bala leaves, somebody may be acting for him. I mean, the other day, Minister, I think, Kore Levesau left, and Minister Usemate was acting for him, or Minister for Forest was acting for him. So when they have to ask a question for that person, and he's not there, then whoever is acting will answer the question.
You answered my 2 questions, sir. Thank you very much. All the best for you.
Vinaka, thank you. Now, you've already asked before. Anybody else? Last person. Last one, last two. 1, 2, please. I have to go to work tomorrow.
Thank you, sir, for having us tonight with you. As we all know that the budget announced this year is a family budget, and in plain view, it is all sunshine and roses. But if we take a deeper look into the budget, I really can't see any allowance or anything for the families there. The only thing that I see that's about a family is that $1,000 grant to the new families, and I really don't see any sense in that. Because the reason being, sir, with the current cost of living, $1,000 can only go so far as 2 weeks, if I'm correct. And the thing I'm seeing is that there isn't really any long-term solution to take care of the new family. After the 1,000, then what? And with the current cost of living, which is so high, compared to the minimum wage, we can't even get through. I believe that the current poverty line is $200 a week. $200 a week. A minimum wage is living $100 a week. And while looking at the budget, I only see that there's a reduce. Oh, no, there's no duty on foreign fruits and vegetables. But there isn't any provision to really take care of the minimum wage day-to-day living. I believe that all of us here today will agree that our $50 is not giving us what it used to give us. Our $50, it's giving us less. So, my question is, what is really there that will take care of us? The minimum wage, the people that are living below the poverty line. That is the question that I want to pose, because I don't see anything on the budget that really take care of the ordinary citizens, the people that are sitting here.
Okay, you've asked the question. I'm good to see you because you disappeared yesterday from USP. I wanted you to give me the name of the security company.
Thank you, sir. I had to go to classes.
Can you give me the name of the security company today?
I already did. It was with your...
Have you given it? You got it? What's the name of the security company? Takeawa? What is it? What was it, Takeawa?
No, sir. It's with...
But you should tell me the name of the security company.
Forgive me. I have to go and have my classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but what's the name of the company now? Can you tell me now?
It's with your staff, sir. It's with your staff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just, yesterday early on when I started, I highlighted there's a gentleman at USP who asked me yesterday about minimum wage. This is the gentleman who talked to me about minimum wage yesterday. What was actually interesting that you said to me that you get tells and also you work. Yes. So, you see, you've asked the question that $1,000 is not much. The reality is that if you look at this policy, It is an incentive that many other countries have adopted. In fact, $1,000 compared to, say, what they pay for families giving birth to children in, say, Australia is very large, much larger than what we are giving now. So, but the reality is that it's never happened before. It's a new initiative. And the reality is that we're already getting a lot of accolades from mothers who earn less than $30,000 saying, thank you very much for this assistance. A lot of people are very appreciative of it. Now, are you saying that there's nothing else for families? Are you trying to tell me that increase in maternity leave is nothing for families? Are you trying to tell me that increase or introduction of paternity leave is nothing for families? Having family care leave is nothing for families? Are you trying to tell me that the families who can now send their children to universities and before they could not is nothing for families? Are you trying to tell me that the increase in TELS, the increase in bus fares for university students is nothing for families? Of course it is something. I can tell you there are so many, literally, thousands of people who've said to me two things. They said to me, we wish in our time they actually had free education. I would have finished high school. I've had so many females say that to me. They said to me, we had 5 or 6 brothers and sisters, and my parents, they could not afford everybody's school fees. They kept the girls at home and sent the brothers to school because girls would get married and go away in any case. That was the thinking. It's a fact. Then I've had so many people said to me, I could have actually finished university. I used to come first in my class, but my father could not afford to send me to university. And I wish they had it in my time. Or people have said to me, I wish they had it a few years ago. I could have got my children to finish their school. So the reality, it is making a huge impact with the TELS, with the toppers. And the fact is, the reason why we're talking about families, the GP system. From the 1st of Jan, when you get ill, you can go and see a local GP. You don't have to go and queue up at CWM. That helps families. That also helps set up what we call the family doctor system. You have a doctor that knows you and your family history. I know you're single, you said it 3 times yesterday. When you get married, when you have children, if you, for example, live here in Nandera, you can go and visit the local GP, that becomes your family doctor. So these things are what we call, an indirect way of building strong families from that perspective. If you look at the budget overall, I take it you one of the opposition people, but you see, the fact of the matter is this. When you have budgets is not only about throwing money. Budget is about actually putting in place policy formulations that will set up strong foundations for the economy. So you see, if you, for example, get the GP system working, people have access to better health services from that perspective, then obviously you have a healthier society, people become a lot more productive. If you are giving people 5 days now family care leave, so when you go to work, you feel that I actually will work harder because now the system allows me to take days off when I have a family situation. So the days that I'm at work, I will actually work very hard. I don't have to touch my annual leave just because somebody gets sick in my family or there's a death in the family, whatever it is. Now, if my wife gives birth, I can spend 5 days with her and my newborn baby. So you see, it provides an incentive, a psychological incentive to people. In the same way, the example that I gave about Saki the driver. A lot of people have said to us, some of the opposition keep on saying, oh, there are too many cars on the roads. Yeah, cars have increased on the number of roads in Fiji, but the reality is we cannot deny people. The question is, what is the solution? The solution is we're doing the 4-lane roads, we're going to have dedicated bus lanes on certain days. It's a holistic approach to it. So I, don't necessarily agree with you that when you make that statement, there's nothing in it for families. Of course, there's lots of it in families, and we're providing that focus for that. Thank you.
So I'll not take a lot of your time, but I would like to thank you for being a minister that is very open and coming out in public and answering questions, anybody, whatever they want to ask. I think somebody had a problem with you having many ministries, but they don't realize the savings that the government probably would be making. And they're probably into that old system where we used to have lazy ministers who would not do any work but just roam around. So that's what they're probably used to. My request to you is you are moving the nation very fast. And there is a lot of people that probably do not understand what is happening. You have already conducted training for the parliamentarians. Probably this would be something where you would ask public to come and ask so that they know what is happening and they avoid such questions where they don't understand. So thank you very much for at least briefing us all and taking the country at this speed and keeping us abrupt with what is happening with the nation. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. You know, I find it funny because when people talk about the number of ministerial portfolios, for example, Honorable Minister Seri Ratu, he's Minister for Agriculture, he's Minister for Rural and Maritime Development, he's also, which includes provincial development also, he's Minister for Meteorology, and he's also Minister for Natural Disaster Management. There's 5 portfolios. You have Honorable Praveen Bala, he's Minister for Housing until the 31st of July, it's just changed now because we realigned the ministries. He's Minister for Environment, Minister for Housing, Minister for Local Government, Minister for Infrastructure, Minister for Local Government, and Transport, sorry, Minister for Transport. It's 5 portfolios. So this lady says to me, I'm holding all the portfolios. You see, so obviously there is something amiss here. Now, what people need to look at is the size of the ministries. Now, the Ministry of Civil Service actually is a very efficient, lean ministry. It's not a large ministry. There's only about 20 people working in that ministry. How many? 20 people. The Ministry of Communications is basically independent bodies. So you have the Department of Information, it's got a director, it runs on its own. It does not need sort of ministerial or day-to-day intervention. Government ITC department has its own director, they do their own thing. And we have, of course, the technical guys who do the frequency allocation. It's a technical aspect. We simply provide policy allocation. I think people who talk about ministerial responsibilities think that we all sit there every day and go through it. No. This is why we are appointing civil servants. So you see, in the same way, we have the legal matters as Attorney General. The Solicitor General is an independent body. They do the legal matters. We simply provide legal advice to government, not day-to-day litigation matters. So all these people, you see, when they make these comments, I actually find it rather hilarious and amusing because it's a hysterical reaction. And when people personalize matters, as I said in Parliament, Brother Eugene Felhati, who taught me, who I was very close to when I was in Marist, he always told me, when people personalize matters, they don't talk about the substance, and they bring all sorts of illogical statements, you know that you won the argument, they've got nothing else better to say. That's the point. So you see, I wish that people would actually talk about substance. There's a young lady, she's obviously intelligent, but you see, she drew minimum wage to my number of ministerial portfolios, not actually understanding that the other ministers hold the same number of portfolios. You see, so logically it does not make sense. And the point, as the Honorable Prime Minister has said in his numerous statements in the past couple of weeks, he was in Ra this morning too, is that you as all discerning individual members of our country, you have a huge responsibility going into the elections. And you need to be able to make your choices based on sound decisions. And your decisions should not be driven by somebody who talks something, this gentleman here, and I thank him for asking that question, because there is a lot of talk around the grog bowl. There is a lot of talk on social media. People make all sorts of allegations. I call them the keyboard warriors. They have this sort of unfettered access to social media. These are the same people who say all sorts of things, and in the same breath they say, we have no freedom. What nonsense. It's hypocritical. So the reality is that when we actually go to the polls, and that's your choice, you simply have to think about the future. As I said, 50% of the population is below the age of 27. 70% of the population is below the age of 40. People who are now talking about $4 or $5 an hour, did they ever talk about minimum wage before? People are now saying that $1,000 is less. Did they ever think about that issue before? Did they ever think about third-party insurance where people I know languishing, son, father got killed on the road, till today they have not been paid. Now with the law being changed, people are being paid within 24 hours. That's what you call social justice. So you need to have governments, any government, I'm not saying this party, that party, whatever, any government, that needs to be focused on economic issues in an apolitical manner, in a non-political manner, and look at how we can modernize our country. There's enormous potential. I get very excited when I get into a room full of young people. They have a lot of energy. I was this morning today having a meeting. We are setting up a new national gallery of contemporary art. Tomorrow we're actually having a meeting at 10 o'clock. We're getting all the artists and a lot of young people together to look at how we can use plastic as a form of art in the National Gallery. I mean, we need to start being innovative. We need to start focusing on arts, literature, music, all those areas to give us the level of maturity. Thank you very much for coming tonight, and I wish you all the best. Vinaka.